Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Transportation Committee. We're going to bring this meeting to order. I would ask Councilman Valentine if he would do the honor of doing the prayer tonight. Thank you.
Bow our heads. Father, most gracious Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for our health, Lord. We thank you for living in a free country, Lord, in America, Lord God. And we just praise your holy name, Father. We ask you to protect our men and women in uniform, Father. I ask you that we make the right decisions. Give us wisdom, Father, in making tough decisions, Father, and for your people and our constituents. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Zahn, if you'll make a note that Councilman Lambert is working tonight and it's not in attendance. Number 3, anybody wishing to speak, if you'll fill out a public comment card, you may speak at the item that we address. Number 4, Mr. Rue, update on grass cutting on roads.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, as part of the drainage meeting, you get an update of what we do. We update all the roads, parish and state, where we at on it, and you have the books. And we went through that with the planning, through the drainage board meeting. What I want to talk about here is to see where y'all want to go with the grass cutting on state highways. We're ready for, in fact, we're getting up to the limit on time limit on submitting our request to continue to contract with DOTD as part of the grass cutting certain parish state roads. The fact of the matter is we get in the neighborhood of $300,000, a little bit over $300,000, but it's costing us probably almost twice that to maintain these roads as per the contract. I'm just coming to you to give that information to you and get your opinion on how should we proceed. We cannot get any more money for it. This is a statewide contract. $300,000, $250,000 of parish money to be put on state highways to maintain the grass, weed control. Some people say that it's benefiting us because it's keeping the grass down. We have control over when the grass is cut, and we're able to aesthetically maintain the condition of these roads. Other people say at $300,000 we're giving this to the state. The state should be taking care of it themselves. So I'm opening it up to the committee to give me some information how you want us to proceed on this.
Any comments? Mr. Shakespeare.
Well, I think it's a necessary evil right now, the position we're in. Obviously, we can't do all of the roads. The state is not keeping up. But for the safety factor and everything, we need to do some of the roads. My concern was on Brittany Tower Road. It's pretty bad shape a lot of times on the areas that are not kept up, and that's why I was asking for that to be included. And my question would be that, are we getting a per foot or per mile payment?
It is per mile, and it has to do with separated or medians and things like this. It's set in there pretty precisely how much they'll pay for certain types of highways.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, a lot of the Brittany Tower Road is kept up by private individuals. In the areas where it's not kept up, it's horrible. And so if we're getting a per mile and we're keeping up the whole road, I think it would be cost effective if we would add that one on, because we would just have to maintain parts of it that is pastures and things of that sort, and I think we would come out okay on that one. Any others, I couldn't find any others that we would have a small percentage like that we could come out on. So with that, I mean, I would request that we would add that one with the others, because I don't think it would cost us very much more money.
Anybody else in here? Mr. Valentine?
Mr. Rue, I'm not going to add anything, that's for sure. Our responsibility of the state roads, are we responsible for all the state roads from now?
It's not all of them, but a good portion of them. We have a contract to maintain. And it's completely optional on our part how many we want to maintain, which roads we want to maintain, pretty much. And or if we want to do it at all, participate at all.
Wait, you're saying that the price is about double. So, I mean, we submit we're going to take care of certain roads?
As per the contract, we have it listed down there what roads is part of the contract, and they use those roads to come up with a figure of the miles of each type and give us the total amount due us.
Right. And now, has that contract changed in the last several years?
Basically, no. And
so have we taken on tried to take on more responsibility for more funds, and then the services that we're supplying has kind of increased as far as salaries, gasoline, time, what have you?
Yeah, exactly right. The cost of equipment has doubled. Cost of fuel has more than doubled. Payroll has increased substantially. Benefits, I mean, you figure it all in. Depreciation of the equipment, and don't look at just payroll compared to what we're getting, which was done in the past, and that's misleading. You have to incorporate your whole, all your process and all of your operations, which is like your depreciation of equipment. And when you do all of that, and you prorate it per year, then you're looking at almost double the amount it actually costing the parish to maintain these roads from what we're getting from the state.
Well, I would definitely be for paring it down instead of paring it up. That's for sure. I mean, we just can't continue to service a large percentage of state roads if we're going to go in a hole every year on this. I mean, I understand we probably need to cut certain ones that naturally, like Mr. Scheck said, has a lot of residents along it, but stretches that primarily doesn't have residents on it. I'm not sure we need to be trying to manicure those. I mean, you want a suggestion? I mean, I'll say we pare it down instead of paring it up.
Mr. Holmesby.
Yeah, Mr. Rue, if I understand, of course, we all know costs are up. When was the last time that we saw an increase in the dollar amount on the contract? Has it been a set number of roads each year, and yet our costs are going up, but we're not getting any additional revenue from the state? Is that what you're saying?
Over the last few years, that's all. I haven't seen any increase in money for the contract.
All right. And I guess my next question is, if we was to opt out, and like George says, maybe pare down the road list and take care of just a smaller set number of roads, then turn it over to the state and let's see how it goes. And then if there's a problem, do we have the option to come back then if we start getting calls from the residents, from the citizens, they're not happy?
We have to go back into the contract, and
but you can go back.
Oh yes, at any point in time, I'm sure you can go, get the contract reissued or amended and reissued, or whatever the pleasure is of the council.
Can we do this? Can we adjust the road list and go back with the state and say we'll do the roads and negotiate and say this is what we need to take care of the roads?
I'm sure we can.
That's probably
I
what
can't
I'd like to
be
see.
factual about it right now, but I'm pretty sure we can pretty much pick what roads we're able to participate in.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Rue, if we did give it up, who would cut the grass? Would the state come and actually cut the grass? I mean, I'm thinking, I travel Coontrap Road, Highway 74, Highway 73, 621, that's in my area. When that grass gets tall, it's very unsightly. So, I mean, I'm concerned that if we don't do it, who will?
The state has their own weed control, but also they contract out to private companies a lot of this. If you notice on the interstate and other places, all of that is contracted out, outsourced. So I would think that most of this work would be outsourced out to other, private companies that want to, are able to maintain the grass with the amount of money given to them from the.
Do we have any leverage, with the state to say that, at least that they had to cut them twice a year and that we'd have some kind of time frame or something? I mean, if we just left it to somebody else to do,
No.
and it's our roads.
I'll give you for instance. No, it's not. I mean, they have a basic contract, and this is statewide, and they tend not to vary too much because if they vary with one parish, they're obligated to do the same with other parishes. You have to understand that really, we're mandated, and we're not. It's hard for us to do it, but we're actually mandated to clean up the road for all trash prior to mowing, and then rechecking it afterward. And when you figure it all in, this is a heavy, heavy responsibility to have trash crews going through and trying to pick up the trash prior to mowing it. We're not able to even do that. We just don't have enough personnel and enough assets to put that many people out doing it the way it should be done.
What roads are currently? I know Airline Highway. Isn't Airline one of them?
Most of your major highways, 42 Airline, 431, 621, 44. Most of your major highway thoroughfares is maintained by the parish. State roads are maintained by the parish per this contract.
Right. Well, this to me is a serious issue as far as getting the grass cut. Whether the state does it, whether we do it along our state roads, because tall grass in the ditches keep the water from flowing. It also holds mosquitoes. I mean, there's a lot of things. Plus, it's very unsightly. And so I'm just curious as to how we would go. If we just arbitrarily say, well, no, we're not going to do it, and the state doesn't do it in a timely manner, what kind of mess will we have?
I think that was one of the reasons we've been keeping the contract for the last at least 4 years. Because I remember 4 years ago we looked at it and I found that it wasn't cost effective for or anywhere close to being cost effective for the parish to do it. We were losing money at it when you looked at the whole operation. And the council at that time really chose to do the same thing because of the who else is going to do it, and the fact of the matter that the residents doesn't really know if it's a state highway or parish road who maintains it. They chose to keep this going. But it's incumbent upon me to bring to your attention the fact that we are spending this much money over and above what we're getting, and leave it in your hands to determine, do we still do it.
Could we look into maybe some kind of plan, how we would transfer from one to the other and have an acceptable plan? I mean, is there some kind of way we can come up with a plan to get out and to get into somebody else handling it?
We can look into it, and I can talk some more with DOTD. Basically, we don't renew the contract. They take it back over, and they probably ask for bids for some other outsourcing companies to do it. But I'll talk to them and see if there are any other ways we can work this.
Anybody got any ideas or suggestions? Which direction y'all want to go in?
Just one last question. When do we have to make a decision, Bill? What are you looking at? Timeline?
At the next council meeting.
Thursday night?
Not this coming Thursday, next one, on the first meeting of next month, July 6th.
Bill, you mentioned, and that's the way I took it, you're saying it's almost costing us twice as much. So
almost.
You're telling me it's costing us, this council and this parish, $300,000 to maintain state roads.
It's in that
more than what the contract is.
I think no brainer. I think we have to get out of it.
You see, I guess what disturbs me is I know the legislature's in session now, and you read article after article where this one's getting $100,000, this alumni association getting $100,000, and we can't even get enough to keep up state roads. We come up with master transportation plan, and we doing all state roads. I mean, we're just taking all responsibility away from the state. They keep crying they don't have any money. Hurricane Katrina, we got this, we got that. I don't want to sound negative, but I guess I will. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, that's one thing you expect is at least the grass cut at least a couple of times a year on a state road. I mean, I'm just not for spending an excessive amount to keep up the roads. I agree with Ms. Fontenot. It certainly needs to be done. And, of course, Mr. Hellenbeck, I'm sure, thinks the same as Mr. Shakespeare. But to pay $300,000 extra over a $300,000 contract just to maintain the state roads. We need to find some kind of solution. We'll take it up next month.
Put it back on the next agenda. We'll discuss it again. Maybe you can come with a few options, or at least let us know what you maybe got out of DOTD, or maybe talk to Eddie and.
Why don't we ask our state representatives to come here and
Right.
explain their position?
We one thing we did do a couple of years ago, several years ago now, actually had the contract amended somewhat to reduce the amount of cuttings, grass cutting, and doing more spraying, weed control. But that was a hassle to get it through DOTD to refrain from cutting and do more spraying. So it's varying from what the contract we have to make it more cost-effective for us. It's going to be hard, to be honest. But we'll talk, and we will go back to them and see what can be done.
Would it be acceptable maybe for us to try to get some of the representatives, maybe even our senator here, to see what they can do to help us out here, to maybe either get us some more money or to assure us that we will have somebody that would be tasked to get this done in a timely manner. I mean, these roads are going through our parish. It seems like we ought to be able to have, even if we don't do the cutting, we ought to have some say as to how, we would like them cut twice a year or.
Well, I would think that the main role that any one of our representatives has would be to increase the rates that they pay for all of this statewide. Now, I don't know how much that would cost the state. That would be probably an enormous amount of money, because they can't raise it. I don't think they can raise it just for this parish. They'll have to raise the set rates for doing this statewide. And that, again, you're looking at a pretty good bit of money increase to the state for doing that. I don't really know what else they could do.
Councilman Chestnut.
Bill, could you get one of our representatives here for the next meeting and explain
Sure.
this to us, and we'll see what our options are. We can talk directly to them, and
I
they can
think-
explain to the people why or why not we're having our grass cut, and why not this is going on.
What I would suggest, we will meet with some of our representatives, senators, and explain to them the problem, let them get their own answers, and then we'll come back together and report back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5, acceptance of roads into the parish maintenance system. DPW Director Bill Rue.
What this is going back, and this is something we discovered. If you remember back, we had a problem with roads that went past the warranty period and never was accepted into the parish system. These are 5 other roads in the 12 Oak subdivision that we discovered went through the same thing. They went through the warranty period. They never were formally accepted into the parish system. It goes back to what year?
2002.
2002. The good thing about it is all these roads has been surveyed and inspected, and they're all within our standards. So they're not bad roads. For some reason or another, they never were brought into the system. They are good roads, and we recommend acceptance of these roads into our system.
Move to send them to council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send this list of roads to the full council. Any objections? Then, Suzanne, you can put this on the following meeting. Thank you. Number 6, no truck route on the parish roads. DPW Director Bill Rue. We briefly talked about this, I think, last meeting.
Yes, ma'am. We're coming to you tonight with the specifics of what you're wishing for, I think. You should have in your packet. Do you have that? Okay, we're going to hand out a list.
Okay.
And it can be added to or whatever. But these are the list of roads and sections of roads that has been requested that we put some type of truck restriction on. We came up with a system. What the actual sign will say, no trucks over 10 tons. Directly under that sign would be placed the sign, empty weight, revise that. No trucks over 10 pounds empty weight would be the first sign. The sign under that will have except for local deliveries. And that should meet the requirement. It does not take an ordinance. You already have an ordinance giving you the right to place these restrictions on any parish road. The parish roads that was suggested so far, and actually it is split up because the roads are actually split that way in our road system. Swamp Road East, Swamp Road North, Swamp Road South, and Swamp Road West, the Seabro Road, Ernest Floyd North, and Ernest Floyd South. And this has been requested of us.
Did that include Panama Canal Road?
I think, well, not Panama Canal, we took the other road, but you can add.
Yes, I mean, that was the continuation, because that's where they cut through.
We'll add that to it if that's the wish.
Yeah, well, I would request that of the council.
Of the committee.
You want
We need a motion to,
Ms. White, let me ask him a question. You want to wait and see if other councilmen have other
You can
roads?
always add. It just
Okay.
matter, just like adding a speed limit or.
All right, well, I'll move we send this to full council.
I second.
And
With
again-
addition of Panama Canal.
with the addition of the Panama Canal Road.
And just for your information, when you get to the council meeting, if in fact someone at the council meeting want to add another road, he can make an amended motion and substitute motion, and you can vote on it at the time to add another road. I mean, so that
Okay.
shouldn't be any problem.
Thank you, Bill.
Any objections? Then Ms. Suzanne, put this on the following agenda for the council also. Okay, number 7, we have a balancing change order for 2004 intersection improvement project, Phase 2 GSA job number 23002A.
Good evening.
Hello.
This was for 3 intersections, Duplessis Road and LA 73, Swamp Road and Airline, and LA 935 and 431. The balance and change order increases the contract price $5,387.49, and that brings the contract total to $272,605.07.
Any questions?
Just, what was the change on it?
The changes involve some wet conditions in the existing ditches from sewage treatment runoff, wastewater, which involved additional muck excavation and borrowed material. And we also had a DOTD revision to the permit that was required by DOTD at the intersection of Duplessis Road and 73. It involves some more reflective items and some more striping and signage.
Councilman Ballin.
Mr. Rule, Mr. Babin, these is checked out, and so,
Recommend acceptance.
okay. Move that we send this full council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept this change order. Any objections?
I have a question.
Question, Mr. Hillensback.
That, at 930, the intersection of Louisiana 935 and 431, where y'all took that turn lane and you looked like you came outside of an existing light pole, is that not going to be a traffic accident waiting to happen right there?
I know during the design that was discussed a great deal, and it was decided that the utility pole remain, and maybe, I don't know, DPW may want to add to that, because I wasn't involved in a lot of design.
Are we going to paint that curb, that wraparound, paint it with some yellow reflective paint?
We looked at the whole situation, and the fact of the matter is, this is, most of the problem would be from traffic on 431 coming through there, because, again, it's an intersection at that location, and the pole was there. So it didn't cause a problem then. We don't see a problem because of the fact it's a stop. It's just like, if you run in there, you're going to run into into the traffic ahead of you if you don't run into that. So it might even save somebody.
Well, I was just amazed. I've never seen a pole left
It's
like that.
innovative.
Yeah, innovative, right. Well,
Innovative,
I
but
think
DOTD
it'd be wise if we went down and put some yellow paint around the curb, so
DOTD, this is a recommendation.
paint the
that we
pole or
came up
something.
With DOTD. So, we feel safe, both of us, the state and the parish, feels okay with the intersection.
That's all.
that's it.
We have a motion and a second, and it passed, so would you put this on the next council agenda? That is the first agenda for July. And I'll need the minutes, Ms. Suzanne, 3 or 4 days before, if you will. Number 8, balancing change order, Hope Villa Estates Road Improvements, GSA Engineer, Barber Brothers Contracting Company, contractor.
Okay, this project had a decrease of $38,528.40, bringing the final contract price to $354,053.60. And the decrease, the reason for the decrease is they had a minimal amount of asphalt patching that was necessary. Maintenance aggregate, the good weather conditions that we had required very little maintenance aggregate. And the limestone shoulders and drives, there was very little material used for that particular item because the recycled material was used for the majority of the shoulders and drives. The only really increase we had, we did a profilograph on the roads as requested. In that, so the decrease in the project was $38,528.40.
Motion.
Second.
Comment too, Cheryl.
Your motion and your second, do you want to speak to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to thank GSA. I've met with several of the constituents in there, and they're very pleased. Of course, everyone knows this is formerly the old trailer land subdivision, now Hopeville Estates, but the work on the roads turned out really nice. People are happy, and with the sewer plant and everything has been done in there, I think the people are very, very pleased. So I'd like to thank GSA and Barber Brothers. They did a good job.
We have a motion and a second to accept this change order. Any objections?
And we got almost 40,000 back. Yeah.
We have no objections. The motion passed. That also will be put on the council agenda for the first meeting in July. We have number 9, no parking signs on Floyd Holton Road. Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Is Dempsey still here?
I can give a recommendation was sent to us from Mr. Lambert, and the recommendation is really just for no parking on both sides of Floyd Holton Road from intersection of Norwood Road to the point 100 feet north of that said intersection, and it is a recommendation DPW that we provide this.
That's the one that you talked about before with the problem with parking the trucks on the side, and I move to accept the recommendation, DPW.
We have a motion and a second. Any objections? This too may be added to the next council agenda. Number 10, Bond Road Program, Tom Hunter and Kent Israel with URS. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. Appreciate y'all having us back here to continue the discussion of the potential master transportation plan here in the parish and potential road bond program. The good news is, I think last time we met I had a presentation that was probably about 45 minutes long. Tonight it's hopefully more in the 5 or 10 minute range as far as the presentation. I realize the discussion may go on considerably longer than that, but at least you won't have to listen to me with the extended presentation. The objective here tonight is to discuss some of the, I think last time we met we had a workshop on a draft plan. We laid out a plan. We had a lot of good comments. We've tried to address some of those comments, and we have a revised draft plan. The purpose is obviously to present that draft plan here today. I want to start with a, go ahead and go to the next slide. Well, I guess I need to do that. Let's see if I can figure this out here. Any idea? Okay. Just this button right here?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay, we've talked about the meeting here. Let's talk about the overall proposed program. First of all, a few key changes to the overall proposed program. The first thing is relevant to the impact fees. In the previous discussion, we basically showed the relationship of the impact fees going directly to the master transportation plan, whereas we basically noted that the impact fees, if they were to be approved, could only be used for those projects relevant to the master transportation plan. After the previous discussion, we also had contacted someone at the consultant firm who's currently working on putting the traffic impact fees together, and we got a little better handle on exactly how those dollars could be spent. We basically changed that relationship now. It's clear that the impact fees could be utilized to support certain projects that would be congestion relief related in the overall master transportation plan. But at the same time, we propose that those impact fees could also be used to address impacts from new development, which would mean that they wouldn't necessarily have to go to projects that were only in the master transportation plan. One fundamental change. Basically, again, they would have to be utilized for congestion relief projects. That was one thing that they did make clear to us. We can't use them for safety or maintenance-related projects, but they could be used for congestion relief-related projects, and they could be used for really any aspect of project development, engineering, environmental services, right-of-way acquisition, and they would also be able to be utilized for actually implementation of the improvements that were needed. Another issue that came up was, I guess, a little more emphasis on the local roadway network. Obviously, a lot of the problems associated with transportation in this parish are on state routes, but it was brought to our attention at the workshop that we need to consider, while we do have some projects in the overall program that are for local roads, there should be an option to utilize up to a number we're throwing out is 10% of the bond proceeds to upgrade local roads to higher standards. And that's, again, to put an emphasis on one of your primary missions, which is to maintain local roads. So this way, you would have the current revenue stream that you have to maintain roads, and you would have the ability to provide some additional funding under this program, plus the local road improvements that are already in the plan. Let's talk about the actual revisions to the projects in the master transportation plan for just a minute. There's just a few of them based on our previous discussion. First, if you remember right, there were really two documents. There was a master transportation plan, the priority projects, which was the overall program, about $500 million worth of construction projects. And then we also had a second list, which we really referred to as the bond program components. Let's concentrate right now on the first list, which is the master transportation plan priority projects. A couple of the revisions, they're highlighted on the spreadsheets that we gave you in red, the revisions. The first one was to LA 44 between LA 621 and LA 42. We had previously included that as a 5-lane section. We are proposing that it actually be consistent with the lower section, which is a 4-lane undivided section. Improvements to LA 73 between LA 30 and the Parish line were added as a 3-lane urban section based on comments in the previous workshop. And the LA 74 Ascension, I'm sorry for the misspelling there, between US 61 and LA 44. That was simply an oversight. That was actually supposed to be part of the previous plan. It just was not included, so we added it in. It was an error. Bottom line is the program now goes from about $364 million up to $507 million. There was one other thing, let me note, I forgot to mention there. Under US 61 Airline Highway between the East Baton Rouge Parish line and LA 22. In the previous document, we had noted that project said to add, noted the description to add travel lanes, but we had not included a cost because we did not have the cost estimate at the time. We have now included that cost estimate, and it is $31 million, and that's simply to add an additional travel lane in each direction. So with that, again, the program has been modified from $464 million approximately to $507 million. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the bond program components, the specific issues there. First of all, when you look at that spreadsheet, you'll notice to the right of the spreadsheet there are two new columns. We have included the estimated cost of right-of-way acquisition for each of the projects, as well as the estimated cost for the design and engineering component of the project. This was due to the fact there was a good discussion last time relevant to the traffic impact fees, and we had noted again at that time that the traffic impact fees would be all utilized to support the road support the transportation master plan. Now, obviously, there's been a fundamental change, and while some of those dollars may be utilized, not all of them likely will. So, in lieu of that, we wanted to get an understanding of our total project implementation costs versus last time we had total construction costs. So we added those costs in. We also made a few other modifications, and I'll go through them. Again, they're highlighted in red. LA 44 between LA 621 and Merritt Evans, we now have as a 4-lane undivided versus a 5-lane. There was about $1.5 million reduction in cost. Let's see, and then the other primary change relevant to the situation on LA 44, we had a pretty lengthy discussion regarding that issue and the fact that there's an upcoming project to improve sections of 44 south of I-10, but really no capacity-related improvements or congestion relief or minimal. And the discussion was consider the extension of LA 22 from approximately 70 down the River Road to divert truck traffic onto that segment of roadway between River Road and the interstate, providing some relief to 44. So that project was added. The total cost in construction dollars, now keep in mind I'm talking construction here. In the previous bond issue, hold on just one second. Let's see, I don't know why we're not on the presentation. There we go. Was about $124 million, and now it's approximately $128. Now, that's on the construction side only. When we add in right-of-way and engineering project development costs, the program goes to about $182 million. So there's approximately a $54 million differential between the total project implementation cost versus the construction cost. So I think an important consideration for this committee is the fact that relevant to the traffic impact fees, you can look at it in a couple different ways. If the impact fees do not materialize, well then there's obviously a $50 million gap in the program. If you can divert some component, if they are approved, and say 50% go to this program and 50% go to address specific improvements associated with specific developments, you would be able to cover some of that gap. And then there's one other issue out there, as I noted previously. if the bond issue were approved on a 20-year basis, or any basis for that matter, based on the revenue growth in the parish, there will likely be considerable additional dollars on an annual basis available to help cover some of that gap. And what I mean by that is it's a pretty conservative outlook the way these bond issues work. They'll only take about 75 or 80% of the current collection and allow you to bond that amount. And let's just take some real simple numbers. Let's say that it's $100. They would allow you to bond on an annual basis $75 to $80 on an annual basis. And knowing you're going to collect more than you really need to pay the debt service. But in a parish like this, the trend should continue unless something way out of the ordinary happens, and that revenue, that annual revenue, will continue to increase. So in year one, you may have $1 million over and above what your debt service requirements are, but 10 years down the road, you may have $3 or $4 million. And 20 years down the road, you may have $6 or $8 million over and above that. So you have some additional cash on hand to help cover some of those potential shortfalls. So you have two, I guess the point of the discussion is you have two possible sources to cover that $54 million. One is impact fees, and the other one would be the additional cash collections that may materialize based on the increase in revenue generation in the parish, which we would think would occur in a parish with the current rate of growth. So with that, I think we'd open it back up for discussion and talk about where we have agreement, and talk about where we still have some problems to resolve, and see if we can just start to resolve some of the final issues.
Any questions from anybody? You have a question, Mr. Shakespeare?
Yes, I mean, I don't have any questions. I'd just like to make statements. I appreciate you guys going back, taking the concerns that we have, and it looks like you've addressed them all. And we have a working document now that we can move forward with, as far as I'm concerned, that we've addressed the issues that we've talked about. Because number one, our priorities need to be our parish roads first, and we need to put a portion of the impact fees where the impact is going to be. And so that gives us the flexibility to do that, and I think we can move forward with this now, and something that's much needed for the parish. So I'm very satisfied with it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you brought this to put on the ballot today, the estimated construction cost is now $504 million, but we can only bond out, I think you said last time, around $100
Yes,
million.
ma'am.
So that narrows this list down.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a priority list that can be accomplished? Because I'm sure if we bring it to the people want to know what's going to get done, how long it's going to take to get done, and that's going to be a big selling point.
Yes, ma'am. The second document that we submitted here, which is the Master Transportation Plan bond program components, which is the ones on the 8.5 by 14, the legal size sheets, reflects a much more narrowed down list of improvements. The construction cost of those improvements are approximately $127 million. And if you remember from our previous discussion, we typically would like to overprogram about 25%. So the basis from a construction cost perspective is about $100 million worth of projects, well, $125 million, but inevitably you seem to run into problems on certain projects where they either delayed due to major environmental concerns or community opposition or for some reason or the other. So that list was intended to be the narrowed down list. Now what I guess what the committee needs to understand is that is relevant to construction dollars. If you do not want to depend, if you assume that we'll have no traffic impact fees to support the right-of-way and engineering cost, that would add to a potential shortfall. Although, again, kind of the way I perceive it is that maybe 50% of the dollars from the impact fees, if it were to be approved, could be utilized to support the bond program components, and probably maybe in the neighborhood of 50% would be utilized to specifically address impacts associated with brand new development, intersection improvements, signalization improvements, and those types of things. So if you make that assumption, well, then you may have in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million on a conservative basis available from the impact fees to help support this program in a right-of-way acquisition. And the last statement that I made was relevant to the additional revenue that you would likely have over and above on an annual basis, over and above the debt service necessary to pay out the bonds. There will be some, well, let me rephrase that. I do not know that as a fact. There is a potential, and it's a pretty strong potential with most of these programs, where they do not allow you to bond the entire capacity of a revenue stream. In other words, if you're going to have an annual revenue stream of $100, they're not going to allow you to assume you're going to have $100 to pay the debt service every year. They're going to require 75 or 80% or some lower number. And due to that, there's typically some additional cash you receive on an annual basis over and above what you have to pay the debt service. And based on this program, that money would have to go back into this program, into these specific projects. And if the revenue stream grows, as the financial advisor has shown that it would grow, there would likely be some substantial additional dollars in years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and continuing to grow through years 10, 15, and 20, however long we go with the bond issue, to help offset some of those additional costs. Sorry for such a long answer, but the bottom line is that second list of projects, total implementation cost we have estimated is $182 million, and that is the prioritized list of projects, understanding that we can't afford $500 million worth of projects. But $125 million is where I'd prefer it to be. But if we add the right-of-way and the engineering costs, it goes up to closer to $180 million, and you have two potential sources to cover that overage. One is the traffic impact fees, or percentage of the traffic impact fees, and two is the additional revenue that you may generate over and above the debt service required on an annual basis to cover it.
You said that we could possibly maybe use $25 million from the impact fee.
Yeah, if we take
that's over 20 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be.
So, you know.
And that's a very good point, because that's a pay-as-you-go type program there. Right. You know, the intent is not to bond that revenue stream.
Right.
So,
and we can't bond that money, so.
Yeah, well, that's true. So that is an issue. There's no question about it.
Okay. Mr. Shakespeare, you had some more questions?
Well, and that's what I was saying. I think the projected growth is such that we should be able to, it may be drawn out over a number of years, but we should be able to do this prioritized list realistically. And this is not including any more federal dollars or state dollars that would be put in. And
that's an excellent point.
I just think that over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to get some monies. There'll be enough pressure to get some monies from the state and federal programs, because these are basically all state and federal roads. So.
Yeah, and also you'll be at a tremendous advantage in that arena because of the fact you'll have projects moving forward where you'll have some right-of-way available, you'll have design, and you'll have match money, which is very important. And having that match money, that local match money readily available will certainly improve your position in leveraging these local funds to get federal funds. So I think there's a very high likelihood that we can leverage more federal funds, and the ones we've identified here are really only the federal funds that are already really dedicated to most of these projects in the local programs. So that probably does help make the argument that you could consider the full $182 million program, even if the traffic impact fees don't move forward, although certainly that would be not the most advantageous situation relevant to trying to move the program
this is
forward.
over 20 years, right? Let's not forget the 10% we're going to put up.
Yes.
You know, we're bonding $100 million, but we also said that whatever we collect, we put 10% up for our local roads.
You would
So-
have the option to put up to 10%. That is correct.
Right. So, I mean, we've got to take that into consideration.
That's a good point.
One of the things problems that I have, and why nobody has sold me yet on the impact fees, is because every meeting that I went to, and I attended most of them that I could possibly, or those I knew about, I attended to make sure that I got the right information. They said we couldn't use it on existing problems. Most of the problems we have identified here are already existing. New development's not going to impact that. And we've just done some work in my area down Highway 73. And it's being built right now. There's businesses coming. There's still some subdivisions and stuff coming in that area. And I can't see, according to the document, the impact fee document that I have, if somebody appeals, why they would have to pay an impact on a road that's already been designed and fixed. And then we've got the rest of 73 going toward the airline highway, and the rest of 73 going toward Highway 30. It's already in the pipeline. So those areas are going to be fixed. So, I mean, I'm seeing that a lot of the expected or generated impact fees may not really be feasible because of the options that are in the ordinance to begin with that allow people to appeal and to be exempt. And I mean, there's different things. It's a very difficult, it's a very complex document.
I understand that. In very general terms, it was explained to me that basically if we have a congestion problem or a capacity-related problem, the impact fees could be utilized to make those improvements. And my knowledge in other regions and other areas, I tend to believe that's the case.
I have Duncan and Associates impact fee study. I have it with me, and it says that we do not have a capacity problem.
But we do have some congestion problems.
We have some congestion.
Yeah, and
right,
I think
but
we
we
could
don't
certainly
have a capacity.
And I think we could clearly debate that and show that we clearly have a capacity problem.
Yeah, I invite you to come up to Highway 42 either in the morning or in the evening, and we'll talk about capacity,
Yeah.
okay?
We pay $48,000 to Duncan Associates, and that's the figures that's what they have in there.
And it doesn't take a study to tell me we have a capacity problem on certain highways in
Well,
the
I
parish.
think we could talk to them about providing with some information and clearly show where we have some capacity problems and certainly some congestion problems in the parish. And
there's future capacity problems. Next 20 years, we're talking about 20 years from now. I mean, and all of these are predicted, and so these things that we're talking about, we're looking for future development, and so right-of-way, turning lanes, intersection improvements, and all future developments that come up within the next 20 years. And so you're going to have, you've got plenty of projects that would qualify for these issues to be coming down the pack for impact.
I don't think there's any doubt that we won't have a hard time finding projects to expend impact
and,
fees.
and I understand that, Mr. Shakespeare, but we just approved a big subdivision called Renaissance on 73. I mean, these people can basically appeal and say, because they're going to have a 3-lane there, that they're not making an impact. And
they're making an impact, and if the impact fees would be in effect, they would be paying for each house just like everyone else, and would go into a pot. And if the parish would improve the 3-lane highway, then that monies would go into that area to help others impacted areas improve within that area, because they not only impact that intersection, they impact some intersections down the line also. And with other developments there, as you put these monies together, then you can put your lights that you need, then you can put your turning lanes that you need, that the cumulative effect will take care of. And that's one thing that we've been missing and people have been begging us for. And we finally got a mechanism in place to do these things. And I think, we definitely need to do that. So.
Yeah, and, in my...
And it's the council's decision on these projects, the ones that are needed.
In my past professional experience, even in areas that are fully developed, if you have a redevelopment take place and it either increases the density of a residential type development or it significantly increases the employment at a specific commercial site, that does have an impact, even though that area was completely developed. Now, if it's just a straight trade, you got a commercial development with 200 jobs, and you got a new one coming in with 200 jobs. There is no impact, and they can certainly make that case. But for the most part, any development, I haven't seen any examples where development occurs in an area that's already developed versus an area that's undeveloped. They still have impacts if you have increases in density or employment in those areas. And we can clearly show that with traffic modeling, and that's typically what's done.
I'm just concerned that we could stay tied up in court. I guess that's what I mean, if you read the appeals process and the exemptions and the different type of things in there, it is a complex document. And I just use that as an example because I know that we're going to 3-lane Highway 73 long before the houses that are going to be built in this subdivision are built. And therefore, when it comes down to it, these people will say, hey, they already fixed my road. I'm not impacting anything, and I want to appeal. I don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And so it's complex, and we've got to think about all of that ahead of time and make sure, what kind of legal problems we could get into in those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I can't answer those questions relevant to that.
So, just food for thought.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Helmsbeck.
Yeah, thank you. I know there's been a lot of work going into getting it to this point, and I appreciate your efforts, but I'm not at all satisfied with the list of road projects. I brought up at the last meeting that the proposed project of widening Highway 42, you've got it beginning. Excuse me, you got it beginning at 61, doing a 4-lane urban or 4-lane divided with a raised median, ending at Louisiana 930. It's on Highway 42. That's right there at Broussard Grove Church.
And we're talking under the bond program components.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, it is, again, I'll bring this up again, it is 4-lane now from Airline Highway 61 to just east of Old Jefferson Highway 73. And again, I think we need to get a clarification from the state. I just don't see a reason why we need to go with a divided 4-lane highway with a raised median. I know the state, I think y'all said that's what the state wants, but we're out here paying the bills. And unless the state's going to come across with substantial dollars, it looks to me like the 4-lane would suffice. And if we were to do a 4-lane instead of a divided 4-lane with a raised median, I think we could stretch this thing out and possibly get to Highway 44. I think that's where that needs to be a minimum to Highway 44.
The end point of the project, as listed at 930, was a financial constraint issue. It was just we picked a point approximately halfway between Airline and 44. We did the first section. The typical section that is described as a 4-lane urban with raised median is the department's typical section of choice at this point in time. The reason for 4-lane divided is for access control. It is a safer, well, I guess safer is not necessarily the best word, but it is a section that prevents or at least tries to reduce the amount of crossover accidents. It does eliminate the 5th lane with the turning lane in the middle, and this 4-lane with a raised median is a section that may not have to be posted for 45 miles an hour or less, and it would, with the amount, depending again on the amount of traffic control that you have out there. That is the department's section that they're going to want. It's something that is being used many different places, and a 4-lane undivided highway is not a whole lot better than a 3-lane section, because your 2 inside lanes are used quite a bit for turning. People stop in order to make left turns in those inside lanes, and you don't have the real capacity that you need.
Let me just, a couple other comments there. First of all, I think Councilman Hillsbeck does make a good point that we're talking about using parish funds to help improve a project on a state route. And I think we certainly need to take that into consideration. I do believe that the reason we included it as is because it was clearly noted. You mentioned this at the last meeting. You clearly noted that. It was in my notes. Kent has been in contact with the department, and basically the feedback that we were getting is they will push very strongly for a 4-lane divided roadway. We took a conservative approach on this, assuming that we can, there's no question, we'll be more than happy to go to bat for the council to try to get the 4-lane undivided roadway if that is what you would like to get, especially due to the fact it's your dollars that you're using. The conservative approach we took was basically, we think there's a very good chance if we do move forward with it that it likely will wind up being a 4-lane divided roadway because we may not get it through the state standards and it affects the cost. If we can modify it in the document, but if down the line we get to a point where we meet an impasse with the state and we cannot get the 4-lane undivided, well then there's going to be an increase in overall program cost, obviously. So we took a conservative approach and used a higher cost versus a lower cost. If it's this committee's, again, it's your plan. If you really think it's in your best interest to go ahead and show this as a 4-lane undivided, we can do that. Just keep in mind down the road when we get to a point where we actually have to get the final plans and specifications approved by the state in a typical section. If we're unable to get that done, then there will be obviously an increase in overall project cost.
Well, and the point is this, you can do more roadway if it's just pure 4-lane versus 4-lane divided with raised median.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'd love to have it 5-lane, and I know that's what Representative Lambert is working toward. But, again, I think Ascension Parish is going to pay the majority of the bills if this passes. And I'll tell you, I'm not ready to support it. I'm not ready to go to the voters. And I asked about, you had on the handout at the last meeting, 30th of May, excuse me, you had continuation of 5-lane of Highway 44 from 621 to Merritt Evans Road. Well, you went back, and which I told you, that, well, that's a continuation of a 4-lane, and that's what you have, continuation of 4-lane urban. And but on the May 30th handout, we had a construction cost, estimated construction cost of, I believe it was $25 million. And now it's
15.
dropped down to
It was $15 million.
15.
Yes, sir.
That was the total cost. Okay, all right. It just seems like we ought to be 4-laning that all the way to Highway 42. You get a tremendous amount of traffic from Livingston Parish. It's going both to the plants and to LSU as well as our own residents using it.
And, we realize it was, but we were shooting for a goal of about $125 million. It was my goal to put it in sections that we thought had the highest priority need immediately. Right. Now, if there's, at the end of time, if there's extra money, we can add the sections from Merritt Evans to 42 to the program. It's just a start.
And look, I understand on bond issues, you're trying to get something in the program from all around the parish to get the majority of the people to support it. And I realize that we need to do work all around the parish. But I guess the problem I have with this is the density of population is in the northern end of the parish. And that's where the lion's share of the half-cent sales tax is going to be collected. But just like the drainage program, where we're not getting our share of drainage dollars, now looks like we're not going to get our share of transportation dollars. So I'd have a hard time at this point supporting this and trying to go to the voters and ask the voters to support this. And I'm not expecting everything to get done in my district. But I would think in the northern end of the parish, in Mr. Valentine's district, Ms. Fontenot's district, my district, that they would get the lion's share.
Well, Mr. Hellingsbeck, there are 3 projects here on 42, 431, and 44. It's approximately $75 million of the $128 million, or the $180 million. So you have almost a third of the money being spent in that area. And that's just 3 of the projects I looked at.
I'd like to go back and look at the dollars, because we're starting with $8 million already on 42. I mean, we had $8 million to start with.
That $8 million is taken out of this money.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd like to see a breakdown, just what's being spent in all the districts, and we can talk about it then. But I'm not ready to support this.
Okay. So what you need is a breakdown on the funding to see
Right,
the distribution.
Councilman Sexton.
And, Mr. Ellenby, I did want to mention one thing. Our majority of our sales tax comes from the industrial corridor. The vast majority of it along the river. So, and there's very few improvements going in in those areas. So,
well, I think
and we're okay.
Yeah.
But it needs to be where it needs to be, and I agree with them that these are starting points, and that as we go, things that we can fund and stay within budgets, then we can move forward from there. I certainly would love to see 44 go all the way up and 42 go all the way to Livingston. But if we put that in, then we're not realistic in what we're going to do. So I think we definitely need to be realistic with the taxpayers also. Well,
and I'd just like to respond to that the sales tax collections are climbing, as well as commercial developments in the parish, primarily in the northern end. And we can debate that, where the tax dollars are coming from. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other comments?
I got one last comment on Jefferson Highway. The reason I made it's just showing up in a different colored ink. Jefferson, Highway 73, starting at 61 to East Baton Rouge Parish line. You did include that. That's in the bond program.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is an improvement where we did pick something up. Okay. Thank you.
Well, what we have down is to widen the existing road to 3 lanes.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
We thank y'all. You've done a marvelous job again. And we'll digest this, I guess. And, guys, you think we need to bring this to the people?
Let me bring up just one point here. We do have some time constraints as to when, if we're going to make an attempt. Obviously, we're attempting to try to get a program together. There are some deadlines relevant to being able to get this program on the ballot box, as well as to be able to relevant to the State Bond Commission. I should have that information readily available in my hand. Unfortunately, I don't. But I think we should, in very short order, find out what those deadlines and commitments are as far as moving the program along. And I think we're going to probably have to take some action relatively soon on this program. I don't know those exact dates and time frames, but it's something we should all probably work to find out here in the very near future, so we can find out when we actually have to take some official action on the program.
I move to accept this Master Transportation Plan Bond Program components as written and send it to the council for a vote.
I'd like to make a substitute motion, if there's a second to his motion. Okay, substitute motion that it goes, that we have a special finance committee meeting of the whole prior to Councilman McConnell leaving, and let's look at it in finance committee. I mean, that's where we need to look at it and do some further hashing out from there, and then it go to the full council.
I have a substitute motion. Anybody second it? There being no second, we go back to the original motion. Any objections?
I object.
One objection, Councilman Hillensbeck.
I just might say, Mr. Hillensbeck, actually, it'll come to the council before we have our next finance meeting, so we'll be able to discuss it. Don't mean we have to agree. The thing about it is, we need to discuss it, just like these gentlemen said, so we can discuss it at the council meeting and then put it to the finance committee also.
Well, the point is, I think Councilman McConnell's leaving 1st of July. It's going to be gone for a month, so there won't be a full finance meeting with all the council members present. Or, so that's where I'd like to see a special, maybe push for a special meeting to be called. Chairman had to call it, and we could look at it then as a council of the whole versus maybe 10 of 11 members, have all 11 members there to discuss it. And I think that's what we need to do.
Mr. Zahn, we just passed that motion. Would you please put that to the next council meeting? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming. Number 11, I have Roy Domain. He passes. Okay, number 12 is old business road project updates. That would be Mr. Rue. The old business road project updates. I guess that's you, and you had said you wanted to speak about Barrier Construction Company.
Mr. Israel will address the committee on that.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What I handed out to you first was just a project status update of the ongoing projects that we have going on here in Ascension Parish. It's in a different format than it's been in the past. Mr. Rue asked that I put percentages and just give you some information about them. If there's questions, you may look at them. If there's any questions, let me know, and I'll be glad to answer those that I can. Also, go ahead.
You want to go on? Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Also, as part of your package, you have a contract change order for Ascension Parish Road Reconstruction Project 204-RC01, which was for several roads in reconstruction or overlay in the parish. This is change order number 2, final adjustments. The change order the contractor is Barrier Construction Company. The project engineer was PEC. The decrease in the contract price is $136,170.37. The increase is $385,604.34 for a net change in contract price of $249,433.97. The justification is final adjustments of installed quantities as well as penalties for unsatisfactory work. 11 additional contract days for lime stabilization on Henderson Bayou, building of a catch basin on Babin Road, and the catch basin on Elm Road was added to the contract. The contract end date was August 2nd, 2005. certificate of substantial completion is dated August 11th of 2005. 9 days of liquidated damage at $400 per day was assessed for a total of $3,600 against the contractor.
Mr. Israel, we don't have a copy of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Copies.
I thought there was a copy in the package.
No.
This, I don't know
Get
how
to
to
the
handle
bottom
it,
line.
was, boy, not my night, was a change order. This money is in addition to what Barrier is going to have to pay to rework Henderson Road and El Landry Road at his cost. So what we are proposing is that the Transportation Committee forward this plan change to the full council for approval. Now, I can get copies of this to each of y'all tomorrow morning, or what we need to do is, but we needed to have it approved so that we can get our documents in order so that we can get Barrier to go forward with his work. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to understand something. You have $300 and something thousand
Of
worth
extra,
of change orders.
yes, sir.
That this project been going on how long?
Several years. It's 2004.
And we have not received any of those
These,
change orders yet?
this is the second change order. That
Yes,
was the
but I
one
mean-
previous change order.
Usually when we have change orders, periodically they give us change orders that we keep an update on, and this has not been done. And the total is
249,000.
And how much are we withholding from Barrier on
Today,
the-
There's a little over $250,000, I believe.
Yeah, so it just by coincidence it's going to come out about the same? That
Yes,
we're gonna
it
pay
is
them
totally by
more?
coincidence. Has nothing to do
And
with.
that we're holding off and we're just getting this at this point in time. I would suggest you give us a lot of documentation because that's a pretty interesting coincidence.
Okay, we can.
Please do.
Okay, we
Because
will
I'm
take it
not-
off the agenda and have.
I'm not for this at all without any information. I do not. We were told that everything was going to go forward and they were going to pay, they were going to withhold $200-something thousand and they were going to update the roads, which is fine.
Which
Which
they
is
will
what
do.
we expect. And then nothing has ever been mentioned about any overages. Nothing has ever been mentioned about any change orders. And then now, as we're expected to vote on this, now all of a sudden there's $200-something thousand in change orders to the plus. So I want to see some very good documentation on this before I vote on it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
If I'm understanding you correctly, they're going to fix the road, but we're going to pay them their cost to fix
No,
our road.
No.
Go through it again?
Yeah, because you got
You got me confused
you got
here.
both of us.
I'm sorry. This change order is for work other than the work on Henderson Bayou Road and El Landry Road. This is other work that was not at all related to those two, the resurfacing.
And it was work that we
That was
we
done.
authorized. We
Give
as
us an
Yes.
example. Give us an example of something.
Let
me out on this?
me just kind of get into the mix a little
Yeah.
bit on this. Actually, these are a lot of change orders that was in the pipeline to come to the council for approval, but because of the problem we had with Barrier and some problems on some of these roads, PEC actually could not verify the final numbers until we came up with the numbers of what we were going to do with Barrier. They had this, I think, months ago.
They've had this for a long time.
But they held back on it with our knowledge because of the fact of the problem with Henderson Bayou. We didn't know how we were going to proceed with that. So since we went through the last few meetings, we came up with the final numbers, and we'll be able to put them into this change order and come with this final amount. So it's not something that came about last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, exactly months ago. These figures were present. As far as the change orders, that additional work that was done on Parish roads, not on Henderson Bayou and on El Landry, but the other roads, in addition to their original contract.
Let me understand something. We're holding $250,000 right at to ensure that they go back and fix the road problems that are existing from poor workmanship.
That's
Now,
normal retainage.
we're gonna give them $250,000, so there's a wash. So we have nothing in our hand or our pocket as leverage to get them to go ahead and do the projects. It doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, it's odd.
I'm sorry. But they are, as part of this plan change, is that they are going to do this correction to Henderson Bayou and El Landry Road.
But I thought it was our understanding we weren't going to pay them the $250,000 that we're holding until they get the road work done. Mr. Valentine.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Fontenot's right. I mean, in all the discussions, it was always like that was, $250,000 we were holding. I mean, I didn't realize, and I think, Bill, you said it, I mean, with the knowledge of DPW and, I mean, we are PEC withheld these, Barry Construction didn't push to get them changed or paid for until we got the other stuff worked out. Now,
Correct.
They are agreeing to proceed to to do what we asked them to do.
Yes.
So I know they didn't want to. So
They've agreed to do the work on Henderson Bayou and El Landry Road that we outlined.
I mean, that's
at the
why it's
last
kind of
meeting.
taken us by surprise, because I was involved in something. Ms. Fontenot was too, and I always was under the impression, I didn't realize there was $248,000 worth of change orders sitting out there that they were looking to get completed. And I mean, it just kind of like Councilman Shake's out of here. It's kind of odd that it just equals the same thing we was holding out for.
Well,
I don't think it's any problem, and this is just.
Well, assure me, Bill.
Well, let me. This tells us this.
The
documents-
music stopped a
Wait,
long
wait,
time
let me.
ago.
Wait,
Everybody
this
stopped
documents
dancing.
this documents that when it's all said and done, we owe them this much money.
Right.
It don't say that we have to pay them right now. We can hold back, and we're not paying them anything until they go back and do the rest of the work.
Yeah.
They just verify the fact that when it's all said and done, we owe them $250,000 extra. And it just happened to be, but we're not going to pay them anything. I mean, we hold them back everything, even though we owe it to them,
Right.
until they finish the Henderson Bayou and El Landry. So this is not saying that next week we're going to send them a check
Well,
for $250,000 and they don't owe. No, we're not sending them anything until the work is done.
well, I just think procedurally,
yeah.
we were in at least 2 executive sessions where we discussed all of this. And what you're saying, DPW and PEC knew about these change orders. And I can understand if we're not going to discuss that publicly, but we should have been and then all of a sudden we come to a transportation meeting and want to vote on something that we have nothing in front of us. And I just feel very uncomfortable with it. In fact, I feel more than uncomfortable about that. And that I want to see substantial documentation. I want explanation, and I want to look at some comprehensive material as to where their bid was on totals on these totals, and what the totals are that bring it up higher than that, and to justify us with a change order that much at this point in time without being informed all the way through. And with that, that's fine. But we need to be brought up to date properly if we're going to vote on that.
Councilman Hillsman.
Ken, what were the numbers again? How much is going to Barrier and how much is going to PEC?
This is all Barrier.
It's all Barrier.
Yes.
Okay, all Barrier.
Nothing to PEC. This should have been taken care
So
of.
they did the additional engineering on all these changes and there was no charge?
It's already done.
No, there's no engineering. This is all field construction. additional quantities that were placed out in the field. You have
Mr. Israel, excuse me, sir, instead
Yeah.
of explaining it, Ms. Fontenot, I'd just suggest that we just ask Mr. Israel to bring it back to our next transportation meeting. Since Mr. Rue's already said he wasn't going to pay it right away anyway,
Right.
we obviously in no hurry to do anything. So how about Mr. Israel bringing it back to us, as Mr. Shake Snyder said, with documentation, so we can look at it and make a bona fide decision on it. Okay?
Sorry.
That's all right.
It was not brought up
That's
in
not a
proper
problem.
fashion for y'all.
Ms. Suzanne, would you put that on the next council transportation agenda? The transportation committee agenda.
I think this
We have any other old business?
Bill still
Yes,
wants to-
ma'am. I have one thing, which we don't have on the agenda. It's old business, 2005 road program. We're requesting a task order be given to Louisiana Testing for construction materials testing for that program. It's getting ready to get started. The contract is just about completed. It'll be in the hands of the parish within the next couple of days. And we need a testing material company to work on that project, and we recommend in Louisiana Testing. Not to
Question.
exceed $25,000.
Not to exceed 25,000?
Yes.
Thank you, that was my question.
Move to take it to council.
Second.
Any objections? There being no, yeah,
I have another old business. Mr. Oh, I'm sorry.
you wanted to finish this one? Okay. The motion passed, take to the full council, put that on the next council transportation agenda. Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Rue, the wood bridge on Roddy Road that was making noise that we talked about last month, did we get something worked out? We can go ahead and get that paved. The reason I say that is because I hit it the other night about 3:45 in the morning going fishing, and it's noisy.
It woke me up, though.
It might have woke somebody else up, too. I really think we need to go ahead and just pave that. The other bridge is paved, isn't it?
Right. I'm not sure, but no, we are.
The other bridge is paved. I
We're
mean,
looking
it's a
at
wood
doing
bridge
some-
also, I believe.
We're doing some stabilization of the bridge. We got to contract some of that out, but we're doing some stabilization of it while we're proceeding with the reconstruction of both bridges to higher standards. We have some issues with the hydraulics, overtopping of the road and nearby houses, so we're reviewing that again with GSA. But we are looking at doing something to the bridge. I'm not sure it's going to be tomorrow or by the end of the week or next week, but it's going to be fairly soon.
Okay.
And we'll get somebody out there.
Because, well, I mean, we had discussed this last time. That's why you was,
Yeah,
know.
we don't have a problem. It's just a matter of manning it and getting somebody, an asphalt company ready to go do it.
Okay, because I think that the bridge before that is asphalt. I mean, it's you know, so,
Quiet.
you're going to need council approval on that? Because I'll go ahead and put it on the agenda.
No, that's regular maintenance.
Okay.
We'll pay for it out of that.
Councilman Hillenspeth.
Thank you. I was going over the report that Ken Israel handed out. Last I remembered on the Calcote Road Bridge was that we were going to do box culverts there, and we were going to save the parish a couple $100,000 doing some box culverts. So did we take a vote on this?
Yes, sir. It went back to transportation. Went back.
Did I miss something? And I don't remember that being in the.
We actually had a council vote on that.
A council vote. Right. It was.
It never was retracted.
No, it was.
No, we had a council vote, and then DPW came back and said we were going to look at it, and we were going to save the parish $200,000 by doing box culverts instead of a bridge. That's the last I heard of
It went back, and we were directed to go with the bridge there, and it's in the program to 2005, Phase 2. Bert Kleinpeter to do the engineering.
Anybody else have any other old business? Mr. Rue, last time we talked about a little bit about the railroad crossings, and we kind of talked about maybe finding out. I think you said it was very difficult to get the railroads to do things, but I'm having some complaints in the Perkins Road area about the railroad there that is tearing up the cars, and also on Highway 73 the crossing is real bad. Just want to bring it back to your attention. I did bring it to Eddie Lambert's attention, and I think I got an email today from Tommy Kurtz that he's dealing with some other issues with the railroad, and I asked him, and he's going to check into it too. Just wanted to know if you could give us any input about that.
The The only thing I can say is that the proper procedure is for us to request something be done by DOTD, through DOTD to the railroad, and because it's a state highway. And we complain to DOTD, and they complain to the railroad company, and the combination of everybody's complaints finally might get some action, but that's the proper procedure.
Okay.
Move to offer for a resolution complaining to, or informing DODT that we have problems at these.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any objections to that? Then Suzanne, get a resolution to the DOTD. We need to have them take a look at all the intersections on state roads where the railroad crosses over. Thank you. Any other old business? Any new business? Anybody have any new business? There being no new business,
Move to adjourn.
this meeting is adjourned.